to the Q Code. Your curiosity quest starts here.
What's up, Q Coders? Welcome into the episode 2 of the Q Code podcast. I don't know why that's so funny to you, Trav.
It was just that you had to be cued twice, pun intended. You had to be cued twice by Alan to actually start talking.
Did you not catch the first one? I had to be cued to get into the Q Code podcast. No, I did not. I just saw the second one. I must have.
I don't know where you were looking. You were looking straight at him.
I must have blinked.
So my cue is I put my finger up in there because we record 10 seconds of silence for like production reasons. I need to eliminate background noise. But so after 10 seconds, I just have my finger up in the air. We're all sitting totally still, not making noise. And then I swivel my finger toward Danny to start saying, okay, start. This is where you come in. He was staring right at me. I did it. And he just, nothing. So then I unswivel very slowly as to not make noise. And I swivel back toward him. And then he's like, welcome to the Q Code.
Welcome, Q Coders.
Like every time Travis comes in, he always gets it on the first time.
Never missed a cue.
I think that just goes to show you that sometimes you just tune out of things. Like, actually, I was talking about this at work the other day, but do you guys remember, or I don't know if you guys ever, do you remember that show Brain Games?
You tuned out after 10 seconds where your only job is to watch my finger and when it swivels toward you. So
there's like a whole concept where if you're focusing on something, then you tone everything else out. So like there's a game where if you watch guys play, like they're like, okay, watch these 6 people throw this ball back and like these several balls back and forth and count them. Like count how many passes there are, right? So you focus all your attention on counting, okay, pass 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're just counting all these passes. But then in the middle of this whole like 30-second exercise or 60-second exercise, like literally a dude in like a pink gorilla suit will walk across the screen. And then he'll just walk right across, not like it just slowly, just as if just kind of strolls across. And then at the end of it, like 50% of people didn't even notice the pink gorilla.
Mm-hmm. So I understand that test, but there was no other distraction. Like that was your job, was to be counting the balls going back and forth.
That was the one
and you
thing.
did not get it. That was minus a distracting pink gorilla guy.
I was looking for the pink gorilla, I think is what I'm saying. Anyway, welcome
your brain
in.
does not follow instruction.
Welcome into the second episode of the Q Code podcast. You got Trav to my right.
Yeah.
Alan to my left.
You'd never know that was right. But
And you're listening to the sweet dulcet sounds of Dan Barnes.
Dulcet?
Dulcet. Isn't that
I don't know.
It's like, it means cool. Calm and collected.
You can just say sweet cool sounds. I'm just kidding.
Anyway, so I was thinking, we were talking before this show. Trav was letting us know about a show that he's been watching on Netflix that he really enjoys. And it got me thinking about the fact that I do the same thing. Because it sounded like, Trav, what was the show that you were talking about?
I didn't want to really bring it up at this point in time. But so I've been watching anime. And it's just one specific show currently. I mean, I'm always up for a good storyline, but it's Attack on Titan. It's just a bunch of big humanoid type things eating smaller human people.
In anime. So is anime make it like more gruesome than like a typical cartoon?
Yes.
Or, yeah.
Yes, it's more adult themed-ish. There's a lot of people screaming and a lot of close-ups on people's eyes. So it's like you'll just zoom in on this dude's eyes and he'll just be like, ah!
It's a lot of like that. There's like movement, but it's almost like zoomy movement.
Yeah, nobody's like the actual art, or I guess like the actual drawing itself is not moving. There's no motion to it.
It's like they're
but they
zooming in
just
and
have
out.
the they have the lines in the back to make it seem like they're
It's like when they're running, is it where it's like shh? Like, I know it's hard to see what I'm doing in audio form, but it's almost like they take the Heisman pose, and like there's just lines behind them, and then the background just moves by them, but they're not really moving.
Yep.
And they always
Pokemon
have,
style.
They always have like one drop of sweat, just
Yeah. Yep. That's basically it.
Things are very veiny at times.
I don't know what you're doing.
If I remember, like it's like Dragon Ball Z. Like,
you could not come up with anything else to say about it other than things are very veiny at times.
I swear, like
What? I don't know what Adam. I'm not watching hentai porn.
I'm just saying, like Dragon Ball Z and stuff. When like they would be so mad, I swear there was like veins that was coming out of their like muscles in their head and stuff.
Okay.
I can see in hindsight how I could have worded that better.
But so while we're talking about this, there's a show that I've like watched the 3 of the episodes on Netflix. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's called Love, Death, and Robots.
I actually watched some of
Did
that.
you watch some of it? But
Yeah.
I mean, I like it. It's like the graphics are amazing, and it's all animated. And the graphics are like amazing and like unique, depending on which episode you're watching. But it is super, super like gruesome and sexual, and it's like an adult type of.
I was gonna ask, so it's not
animated.
a cartoon for kids.
No, like it's super gory and a lot of nudity. Like cartoon nudity.
I when I flipped it on, because I saw it, like it comes in and it's like, oh, new stuff in Netflix.
Yeah.
And I like flipped it on. I was like, oh, dang. This is not your normal Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle type
Exactly.
cartoon. This is not your normal Saturday morning cartoon stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Is that an actual story?
They have
every
their
episode.
shorts.
Yeah, they're like shorts. They're like every episode is somewhere between like 10 minutes and 20 minutes, something like that. But I mean, I like it. It's definitely not for kids. It's for adults. I like it just because like I've done some graphics in my heyday, in my time. So I like enjoy seeing like the amazing graphics that they've done. And sometimes the stories are pretty like they suck you in. They have to at that short of a time scale. They have to
just
like
jump right.
They have to get you interested immediately. A couple of them don't, but overall, I think it's pretty good.
Your 10 to 20 minute thing checks out for the most part, but there's one episode that's 6 minutes and a couple that are 8 minutes.
Well, thank you. All right.
Thanks, Time Police.
You're welcome. No, I mean, I bring this up because I find myself doing the same thing. Like, and it's the reason I bring it up is because Trav was telling us, like, I'm like, how do you find these shows? He's like, well, I don't know. I was just going through and I was looking for something to fall asleep to. And I read the synopsis and I was like, okay, I'll watch it as I fall asleep. And then next thing he knows, he's hooked. And that happens to me all the time on Netflix too. It's like some kind of Netflix, like, suck hole. What's the word?
Netflix.
You've got like
a veiny Netflix suckhole.
What's the word that I'm looking for?
Your vocabulary is very, very uniquely oriented today.
But anyway, like the one that I started like a week ago because I was like, oh, I just want something to fall asleep to. And I'm like, oh, they have this new show called Formula One Racing or something like Formula One on Netflix. It's like a documentary about Formula One racing. I'm like, yeah, I can fall asleep to that. Yeah, I am obsessed with Formula One racing right now. Like, I told the wife that on my bucket list is I want to go follow a Formula One racing circuit for a year. It's 21 races all over the world over the course of a year.
cool.
Just saying.
That one
good
is
aspiration.
If
to
I was
have.
going to be a fan of any racing in sports, it would be Formula One. NASCAR to me, it's just seriously cars going around in a circle
Yeah. Formula One is
like 500 times.
it's like the ultimate entertainment when it comes to racing. Do you know what Formula One is, Al?
Not really.
So, like Trav said, NASCAR is more like you just drive around in a circle in cars that look honestly a lot like sedans, right?
Yep.
And then Formula One racing is those race cars that are like really low to the ground.
okay,
that are
I
like
see, yeah.
long and have the fins
They have
on
that
the
like
back and-
that skinny nose.
yeah. And they like race around tracks that aren't just like a circle necessarily. Like some of them, like there's a race.
I mean, it all comes back
yeah, it's
to the, to the beginning,
yeah.
but
it's not a perfect circle.
it's like you have like, what's that
turns
one, that famous one that's like in France or whatever?
Well, there's one in Monaco
That's the one I think I
that
was,
they have to drive like literally through the city of Monaco, and so like like a lot of the areas are racing. It's just in between buildings and stuff, and there's just enough room for one car. There's not even room for like two cars to get there. So like that one, they were even saying like, hey, it's really important where you qualify because depending on how fast you qualify depends on like what spot you start in, and it's hard to like pass anybody on that racetrack. But then the other thing too that looks really cool is when they do like some of the night races and they like light it all up and it looks awesome. So anyway, Formula One racing is my new passion.
I feel like he kind of set me up there. He's watching veiny
Suckholes.
anime, and I'm watching race cars.
Well,
We all have.
while we're on the topic, I literally fall asleep to space documentaries, and not because they're not interesting, but because I'm so tired by that.
I would definitely fall asleep
It's
to
because I'm
space
constantly. It's because I'm constantly watching documentaries that eventually I'm going to fall asleep during them. So.
just finally pass out.
No, my sister came over once to my house because so I gather she had to poop really bad. She was in her car, not close to her house, and she's like, I'm close to Alan's house, so I'm just going to go and use his bathroom. And I had just gotten off a 12-hour shift of work and had fallen asleep to like a space documentary or something like that. And I watch them with a decent amount of volume, like pretty loud, I guess, according to her. But so later that night, I go back to work and I get a text and she's like, you have no idea that I pooped in your bathroom, do you? I was like, what? When? She's like, I walked into your house and you were just dead asleep, passed out, blaring the space documentary. I pooped in your bathroom and I left.
And
I was
every
like,
person that pooped is Tracy Barnes. That is Tracy Barnes,
Yes.
Dracy.
Not to be confused with TRACI.
Or EYs.
She's like, every time I dropped a dookie, like a meteorite hit the moon in your documentary. It was like,
All right. You know what? We actually do have things that we need to talk about today.
so moving on. So we're going to talk about a few, as the premise of the show. Each week, each of us will bring a question up for not debate really, but for a topic to discuss. And so this week we have, how big would a box have to be to put every human in the world inside?
That is a thinker. That is,
You guys will be excited to hear this one. Number 2.
And are we, well, I guess I'll ask when we get there.
Okay. Number 2. What did people do for fun throughout history? And finally, you guys need to stay tuned through all of this so that you can get to, who is Dell Schanze?
who is he? Really?
So some of you may know who he is just by the name. Many of you may not even know who he is by the name either. But Trav will make sure that by the end of this episode, you know just who Dell Schanze is.
AKA Super Dell.
Super Dell.
Yep. If you ever heard of or own a totally awesome computer, if you own a totally awesome computer, you should let us know.
Yeah, because they've been out of business for a while and you probably need an upgrade.
Yeah, you do.
Let us know if it's still totally awesome or if it just totally sucks. Okay. So should we just get in? Should we just get into it,
Let's
guys?
just get into
question
it.
number
Let's
one.
go.
Okay, question number one is mine this week, and that question is: how big would a box have to be to put every human in the world inside?
So my question is: are we limiting it to a box, like a cube, six faces, or are we saying just a container?
You don't have to limit it to that. You can use your imagination. I will tell you that I did think about this in and around a cube-shaped box.
Okay. All right. Where are we going to start? So are we going to start with guesses? Maybe.
Sure. Let's do that.
So my initial guess when you told us this is what your question was going to be was, I think I said 1 to 2 square miles big.
Everybody in the
So that'd be 1 mile by 1 mile by 1 mile. All the sides are 1 mile, right? Or
So you're saying 1 mile.
or not square miles, cubic miles. 1 to 2 cubic miles.
So how wide and how, like, so if you're doing width and
So width, length, and depth is going to be 1 mile width, 1 mile length, 1 mile depth.
okay. Trav, any guesses? There's no right or wrong.
Or 2, because I said 1 to 2.
I was going to say double that.
So
2.
so 2 to 4 square
It's a
cubic miles.
I'm just going to say a really big box.
I mean, you don't have to do it by like measurements like that. You
Are
can
we
just say,
stacking people?
yeah, it's a box. So yes, like you can definitely. I mean, I will explain how I got there, but
But also socially, like I feel like we put people into boxes too much.
I mean, if you think about it, this is like a super open question though too, because boxes come in so many different shapes and sizes, and yeah, like it's just you're kind of trying to understand like the
Yeah, but
premise
not
of
really.
what I'm asking.
Because it doesn't, if it's a box like we said, like a 6-sided box, doesn't matter the shape the shape, because it's all going to be the same, right?
Well, I understand what you're saying from a cubic standpoint. A cubit, like a
Like if its volume
standpoint.
is 2 cubic miles, the shape doesn't matter. You can make 2 cubic miles like as long of a rectangle box as you want, or as short. It's still going to be the same
well, in the end, I want this
holding
to be
capacity.
more of a visual type of, like, for the listener to be able to visualize this, right? So you guys are probably wondering, well, another good question to this would be, why did you come up with this question?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
true.
that is literally my only question. I'm not really interested in the result as much as I am interested in how you thought this.
Well, Trav, I'm glad you asked. So the reason I came up with this question is because I had a dream a few weeks ago. And for any of you who listen to our other episodes, you'll know that we have dream episodes that we will read literally a dream that I've dictated onto paper that I've had and discuss it. Well, this one wasn't necessarily worthy of an entire dictation or a story because I only remember sporadic parts of it. But one part that I do remember, and it's ironic, this was like shortly after I watched The Bird Box.
Which was a very small box.
How many podcast episodes are we going to mention the bird box?
And like, so I literally would remember kind of dreaming like through some of the Bird Box, like almost like as I was in the movie, and I kind of remember being in the grocery store that they go to where she actually finds the birds. So anyway, long story short, at some point, but we were attacked by zombies. So it wasn't just like what was in the Bird Box where it was kind of an unknown thing. This one turned out to be, it was like legit zombie thing. So we get pushed out these windows, and the edge of the store in my dream ends up being on the edge of this cliff. And now we're trying to escape, but bodies of zombies and people are just falling off the edge of this cliff. And I land onto a pile of just a massive amount of bodies. And so from what I can tell,
Morbid dream.
of zombies?
like, well, humans and zombies. Well, like they were once humans, then they turned to zombies. But anyway, so from my calculations of what I could remember, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that was roughly like 1 mile by 1 mile by about, I figured the cliff was about 1,000 feet from top to bottom. And it was full of people up to about 200 feet left. So I figured it was about 800 feet deep of people.
And so are they alive or they're dead?
Mostly, they're mostly dead.
Especially the ones at the bottom.
Yeah. So
they're crushed.
That's why I was like thinking. I was like, after that, the next morning I was in the shower and I was just like thinking about the dream. And I was like, I wonder how many bodies would it take to fill up that much space? As I got a frog in my throat. And so that's how I kind of came up with the question. So to answer your the first part of it, so how many bodies would there have had to be in my dream to fill up that?
Wait, hang on, real quick. I have one more question. Is there gravity in this box?
What do you mean? Is there gravity?
Yes.
Is it just Earth gravity?
Yes.
Okay, because if you have gravity,
yes,
people
it's
at the
not like
bottom.
Gravity on Jupiter.
I guess I don't know if you could fit more people if you had like a super tall box versus like a wide base area box, because with gravity you're going to get the compression, right, of people at the bottom. They're going to be smushed. Their bones are probably going to be ground to powder.
Yeah.
And the amount of area that they take up is going to be a lot less.
So I accounted for
and then
that
as you go up
in my calculations, Alan.
Yeah.
So I figured, right, the average body size that I used for my example was 6 feet tall, 2 feet wide, and 6 inches thick. And you think, well, people aren't really 6 inches thick. That's pretty thin. Well, I'm accounting for compression.
Are they veiny?
I accounted for compression. So I figured if you had there's 5,280 feet in a mile. So if you stacked 880 bodies top to bottom, like head to toe, that way, it would take about 880 bodies to make a mile. And if you stacked them side by side, shoulder to shoulder, it'd take about 2,640 bodies to make a mile. So if you do that, and then you layer it 1,600 layers deep, which would be the 6 inches times 1,600 would make the 800 feet deep. Mm-hmm. So in the end,
the 6 inches, what dimension of the body is the 6 inches?
Thick. So
you got your height is 6 feet.
Mm-hmm. Your width is 2 feet.
And then 6 inches thick of like your front to back.
Yes.
Okay.
If you recall, he said he's accounting for the compression. So
yeah,
no,
I'm just wondering in what. Never mind. I want to know in what direction that compression is going.
Yes, I'm assuming they're laying on their backs or their fronts.
Okay.
They're not a bunch of side
So front to back, it's 6 inches.
Not a bunch of. I'm a side layer.
But when you die, I don't think you control which side you lay on.
I will ask to put me on my side.
Please, in my casket.
Yeah.
I would like to be on the side. I'm most comfortable on my right side. But anyway, so if you take all those dimensions that I just said, it would be 3,717,120 bodies could fit in that area. So in my imagination, that's how many bodies must have been in that one area that I was picturing.
3 billion what?
717,120 bodies. So I was also curious, how much would that weigh? So if I took an average of 200 pounds per person, that would weigh 743,424,000,000 pounds. So that's a lot of body weight. If you know what I'm saying.
I mean, not compared to what is the Earth? What is it? Like no, never mind. I don't remember what it is.
You're asking
Keep
it
going.
wrong.
I think it's 5. I think it's 5 times 10 to the 24th kilograms is the weight of the Earth.
Oh. Well, this is less than that.
I feel like it's a lot less.
Well, that's a 5 with 24 zeros after it.
Yes.
Billion has 9 zeros.
So, to fit everyone in the world, if they were all just smushed into a box as dead corpses, would basically take 2 of those boxes. Or you could just take a box like that and make it 1,600 feet deep instead of 800 feet deep. Then you could fit everyone in the world. But that's a little bit morbid, right?
Wait, hang on. So the actual size of the box
half
would
of the
be-
people in the world isn't as morbid, but if you put them all together, all of the people.
So we're saying in
more
like,
of
how big would the box have to be for everybody in the world?
Twice as big as
Well, okay, what was-
1 mile by 1 mile and 800 feet deep.
So 2 miles by 2 miles?
If you go 2 miles by 2 miles and you keep the same, doesn't that change? I guess if you keep the same depth, yeah. Yep, 2 miles by 2 miles by 800 feet deep if you want to do that. So that would fit everyone in the world. But let's like look at this more realistically. Let's say for whatever reason we needed to compile everyone because we were going to move them off the planet, right? And we gave everyone the minimal amount of space that they probably could kind of survive in. So I assumed each person gets a box that's 6 feet tall, 2 feet wide, and 2 feet thick. Okay. So imagine you're basically in this like little shower sized box, like a small shower. Okay.
Got it.
All right. So total in that box would be 24 cubic feet. So I Googled this just to see how many people are on Earth. According to Google, there's 7.53 billion people on Earth as of the end of 2017. So there's probably a few more than that now. But if you take that and you times it by the 24 cubic feet that each person would require, then you would need a total space inside of a box that is 180,720,000,000 cubic feet. And it's kind of hard to picture what that would look like. So I tried to give you examples of that. So I figure if you stack them as deep as the Eiffel Tower, then how many people deep or how many boxes deep could you do? And that's 243 boxes deep. And that would equal like the height of, did I say Eiffel Tower?
Yes.
Sorry, I meant Empire State Building.
Oh, those are very similar. So don't worry, man.
I don't know where I got Eiffel Tower from. I didn't even write that down. I just came up with it.
Is that your attempt at? Okay, I actually never see your notes. Never asked you for your notes today. How many pages?
So
right,
Trav always makes fun of me for my notes. Like last time I had too many notes, he said. So I'm trying to keep my notes shorter.
He did a very good job, actually. I mean, he still has more notes than I do, but
So anyway, long story short, yeah, if you were to fit everyone into a box that was as deep as the Empire State Building, your box would need to be 2.11 square miles by 2.11 square miles, or roughly 4.45 square miles. And if you're trying to picture that, if you're from the Salt Lake Valley area, this will make more sense to you, because if you don't, then you probably don't know who these cities are. But that would be a box that took up space that was a little bigger than West Bountiful, or a little smaller than Centerville.
okay.
Because I could not find a city in the area that was close, like really close to 4.45 square miles. So West Bountiful is like 3.5 square miles, and Centerville is like 6 square miles. So it'd be a box that size that could fit everyone in the world inside of it if you do it that way. But if you're doing what Alan said, say you can't stack the boxes, you just need to have like one layer deep so that you're not stacking people on top of people. How big of an area would you need to fit everyone in the world? And so if you had everyone one layer deep in a box, it would take up a space that was 32.87 square miles by 32.87 square miles and 6 feet tall, because that's how tall each box is, which is a total of about 1,080 square miles. And that is roughly about the third the size of the Park of Yellowstone, or a little less than the the state of Rhode Island, slightly less, or a slightly more than the city of Tokyo. So you could literally fit everybody on Earth if they were just standing side by side right next to each other in a big crowd inside the state of Rhode Island.
Okay.
Imagine the mosh pits you would get with that.
So, yeah.
He
But I
just
think-
ignores you.
I think in the end, this is a lesson to us all that I don't know why we need all this space. Like, they say that we're going to run out of space, but if we can fit everyone on Earth in Rhode Island, we could fit so many more people.
Well, it's because
in little showers. Do you want to live in a little shower?
like when the robots take over and they turn us into batteries, yeah.
I mean, I know your people
that's basically how we live.
like you go to a hotel in Japan and you go in and they just basically show you this little microwave oven that goes back kind of far, and you get to crawl in there, and that's where you live for right now.
Tokyo hotels are super tiny.
If you do look at some of those like super populated
And
cities, though,
expensive.
yeah, I mean, you look at the apartments that they live in, it's like it almost is like they just each live in this little box, and they just cram like thousands of apartments into like one building, and that's how you live. We're kind of spoiled here in the Western United States, where we feel cramped, but really we got quite a bit of space per capita.
Well, you know, I have nothing else to say. I felt like I was going to say something, and then I just didn't. So,
All right. Well, do you guys have anything else you would like to put in boxes, or
I don't.
What if we put all the ants in boxes? Would that be more or less than humans?
wasn't there something that said that there was like more like weight by like ants by weight than there are humans in the world or something like that?
Let's see. There are 7.2 billion humans on the planet today. If we take everyone over the age of 15 and weigh a combined total of 332 BN kilograms. What?
Billion? BN.
BN is billion?
Yeah.
If we imagine there are 10 trillion ants in the world weighing an average of... Okay, so this thing that I Googled just does not give me the answer.
Well, I'm glad we took that time. Should we move on to the next question?
Let's do it.
Okay, Alan. Question number 2. What did people do for fun throughout history? What do you got?
So I basically got that life sucked just about 100 years ago. It was horrible. Like, there wasn't a lot that you did for entertainment or for just for fun.
What are you talking about?
Pretty much.
You seen those things where those like kids have like just like a hoop and then a stick and they're like rolling the hoop? That looks that looked real fun.
What was the hoop made out of?
I think wood.
But so, I mean, when I was trying to like research this, I just kept coming across the same answers, which was women, they didn't really do much, you know, over 100 years ago for entertainment because they had to work all day or take care of the family all day. Men really didn't do much because they had to work all day and watch the kids all day. And then kids really didn't do much because if they were, I don't know, 6 years old or over, they had to work all day. So it was pretty much you just worked.
So it was all work and no play.
Basically, I mean, for the majority of people, yeah. Unless you were rich, then you could afford things like going to the music hall or theater, watching plays, stuff like that. The extent of toys for kids were like dolls and blocks. That's pretty much it. Or go play outside.
So I think kind of a way you have to think about it. Okay, so I think what you're thinking of right now, Alan and Trav, is our entertainment today is digitally based.
Yeah.
Right? So I think if you think of entertainment today, a lot of times you're thinking of, I have TV to watch, I have movies I can go to, I have my phone I can play on, I have video games I can play, I have whatever. Kind of all wraps around this ongoing, I have the internet I can search through. So it's just like this ongoing digital
Podcasts to listen to.
yeah, digital age where you have all these things that are just at your fingertip that you can view on devices or whatever it is. But ultimately, you're doing that for the reason of escaping reality in some ways, to find entertainment, to keep your brain not just sitting in the mundane of boredom, right?
Yeah.
And so if you go through history, I think there is a lot of cases where you can follow that. And I read a book recently that kind of had an interesting thought experiment of like, hey, you go to a museum and you go through and you just go through human history and you can kind of see where people do this. And the early ones is like you go in and you see these people in a cave, they're just sitting around and someone's telling a story. So that story becomes like the first example of entertainment, like imaginary entertainment, because you're not actually living it, but you're hearing somebody tell you a story and you can picture in your head what it would be like to be in that situation, right?
Yeah.
And then you move through history and then you get to a spot where now there's cave paintings. People are trying to express themselves through like those paintings.
Still,
Well, it might, but
I
the
guess
thing is,
that
it's not interesting to you.
So,
because-
yes, because part of what came up for me was what is the definition of entertainment, and I saw a few things saying, well, entertainment is something that's for the enjoyment of masses of people or other people, that they, like a movie or the theater, but my definition of entertainment is probably different than other people's definition of it. My definition of entertainment is watching documentaries. A lot of people, that's homework for them. I'm entertained by it just because I have interest in certain things and I enjoy it. But I guess back in the day, in caveman days, stories and paintings were fun. They were all the rage. But for me, that's boring. That's more like torture.
Well, I think what he's getting at is just that it doesn't really seem like anything has changed. We're digital, but we're still telling stories. So they just tell it differently than we do.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly the point I'm getting at is throughout history, you get from storytelling to cave drawings to eventually people doing, having live theater and plays to books. Then they actually get the printing press. And then you get into like the early movies and then music, and you keep moving and moving forward. And it's all an expression of what's the creativity or whatever. But it's just, and it's also used as a form of entertainment for other people. And like a movie is really just a story told through like moving pictures, right? So like exactly what Trav said is kind of the point I'm getting to with that. But with that said, I went to Mexico a few years back.
Yeah.
And Trav, you go to Mexico quite a bit, don't you?
No.
I thought you were just there.
I mean, I was just there, but you make it sound like it's just a common, reoccurrence. Yeah, I go to Mexico all the time. No. When I was a kid, yeah, maybe
Go
a
to
few
Mazatlan
times.
or something,
Yeah, when I
right?
was a kid, my grandparents had a timeshare, but they've been gone for the long time. At least a decade.
It's funny how you tie things together, but like I always tied Trav and Mexico together. He just spends a lot of time in Mexico.
Is it
That's what
because I
thought.
speak Spanish that like you just
Well, and
assumed that like
I figured that was just ironic later in life that you got to go speak Spanish. But the reason I bring it up is I went on a delayed honeymoon. So it was like a year after my wife and I were married. We went to Mexico on a honeymoon. And when we were there, I don't know why this popped in my head when Alan asked this question, but we went on this like bike ride thing. And then we ended up at this place where they had some kind of like this old ancient ruins, but it was like a arena of some type. And in this arena, there was like these stone hoops that were on either side of this kind of like sloped thing. And if you guys should just Google this, I'm showing the guys a picture right now of what it looked like. But it was a early form of some like a sport. like a game that they would play. So the Aztecs would play this game. I don't really know how to pronounce it, but I'm going to do my best. It's Ula Maliziti. How would you say that, Trav?
What's that Harry
even know.
Potter?
Oh.
What's the game they play in Harry Potter?
Quidditch?
Is it Quidditch?
Quidditch.
Yeah.
Don't they have hoops in that too?
Yeah. Uyamalitzli.
Anyway, for anyone who wants to Google it, it's spelled Ullamaliztli. But yeah, this is a game that the Aztecs played. It sounds like there was other cultures that played a game very similar to it, but we're focusing on the one the Aztecs played. For anyone who doesn't know, Aztecs lived in Mexico from about 1380 to 1521 AD was kind of like their heyday. So anyway, the rules of the game, or the objective of the game, no one really knows for sure. They have speculations. They suspected it involved a 9-pound rubber ball and sticks and rackets and those stone hoops that we talked about, positioned horizontally.
Basically, is like cricket. Like nobody knows how. Like, is it baseball? Is it
croquet?
Croquet? Like, what is it?
Why is the bat flat?
Why do they have? I don't know. Do they have like pads? I feel like they have
Cricket pads? I think so.
I think at least some of the players do, but I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, like it's speculation that some of them would just like try to bounce with using their hips, try to bounce the ball through the hoops. Others would think that they were using the sticks to try and hit it through the hoop or whatever. But then they would
why would you ever assume they're just using their hips to bounce it through the hoops?
I don't know, but
You have no evidence of that. There's no like.
there are drawings.
There are no artifacts.
There are drawings that people did thousands of years later.
Somebody made a drawing recently that shows them bouncing it off their hips, trying to go through the hoops.
If you have sticks and rackets, I would assume you use the sticks and rackets, not your hips. Like, is it because they're like Latin and just like, you know how they have the hip movements and like salsa dancing?
Yeah,
maybe.
Hips don't lie, man. Yeah, mom, tonight, you know, the hips don't lie, I'm starting to feel it wrong.
So, what was her name that sings that? Shakira. Maybe Shakira knows how to play this game. But anyway, so I just thought some quick interesting facts were, when they would play, they assumed that they had a battle between two forces. And so, like, right now, you have, like, the Bears versus the Vikings, right? Like, in the NFL. But apparently, according to this Wikipedia page, they basically always played two teams. One would be the Sun team, and the other team would be the Forces of Night team, which would represent the moon and the stars.
I would be on that team.
So it's
Forces
kind of
of Night.
either,
sun's in space too, Alan.
You are correct.
but I guess
How
with
profound.
stars, you get to be multiple suns. Is that what you're saying? So, kids would be taught how to play the game in high school or in school.
At high school? The high school life of the Aztecs.
And the best ones
Still
could
putting up with them bullies.
The best ones could eventually become professional Ulamaliziti players. And would
That
become,
Ulamalabanizi league was awesome.
and would become extremely famous. So apparently they had like superstar athletes back in the Aztec times in the 1300 to 1500 era. So maybe they had not, instead of Air Jordans, they had like, what would you call
You're
them?
coming up with it on the spot. It's not going to be good.
Just don't even finish that joke.
They had sun excitement sandals.
What the?
All right, I should stop trying to come up with stuff on the spot while I'm trying to read and trying to tell a story about this Ulazmalazalati sport. But anyway, one last thing. So basically, my point is they had teams. These people would start playing at a young age.
These people.
The Aztecs would start playing at a young age. Some of them would get really good, become superstars, and become super famous for playing this sport that they played in an arena. And then ultimately, what does that lead to? Well, many people would bet large sums of money on these matches. Some would bet so much that they would be forced to sell their children to get money so that they could bet on the game. Others would even stake their own freedom to bet on the game, basically saying, if I lose this bet, I can't pay you, but I will become your slave.
But then you just get good enough at that game, you play it until eventually you end up playing it in the Colosseum in Rome, and you get your freedom back, right?
If they played this game in Rome. But I'm sure that gladiator games were a little different.
Everything you just read, though, is I'm skeptical of. How do they know any of that? They don't.
Dude, it was on the internet. It's obviously true.
Yep.
I'm assuming historians probably, have their ways. Artifacts, archaeologists.
Okay, never mind. I was going to say, when was the Aztec empire, what would you call it, civilization around versus like Mayans? Because Mayans, were they not similar?
Is it just
like
me?
in time?
Trap?
Because Mayans, what?
Or is Alan like check out of large portions of our podcast?
Did you talk about the Mayans?
No, but he talked about what time.
Fine, but I'm saying relative to the Mayans, because the Mayans, they had their like calendar that everybody, not me, but they thought it was going to be the end of the world. We couldn't even translate what they were saying by their calendar. So how do we translate what Aztecs were, if they even were writing or any of this?
I don't know. I didn't dig that deep into it. I literally was looking for entertainment throughout history. So sorry, I don't have an answer on that right now, but I can work on it. But yeah, so I think that was just an interesting point of like, look, they found something to do for entertainment that was similar to the fact that we have sports nowadays. They had their own version of a sport back in the 1300 to 1500 AD era, the reign of the Aztecs. That resulted in a lot of similar things that we have today when it comes to stars.
1300s?
Yeah.
They definitely had writing. Okay, never mind. I take back everything I said.
Okay. Alan, did you have anything else on your subject?
No, my conclusion was it sucked to be alive back then.
Okay, Trav?
That's it.
No.
All right, let's move on.
All right, Trav, your question. Who is Dell Schanze? I'm assuming you're going to give us a little story time on who this Dell Schanze is.
So I wanted to do it a little different than how I ended up doing this, mainly because really, other than things that happened recently, there's not like a lot of information that you can find online about him. At least as far as like his childhood and things like that. So I'm not going to go that deep into it. The only reason why I thought about this is because a few weeks ago, I was just, online on Facebook, as one will do, and scrolling through and just seeing what news things pop up, what friends are doing. I never really participate. I just stalk mostly. But this story came up about Dell Schanze and him being in trouble with the law again. And what we've grown to know about Dell Schanze is just that he is in this situation quite a bit, but it's always so very different every single time. And it's not just normal stuff. It's not drugs. It's not... some of it can, I guess, kind of be tied to violence, but it's very stupid violence. And just...
So you're saying he doesn't get into trouble as if he were like a mobster or a gangster?
Yeah, nothing like that.
He finds his own trouble.
He finds his own way to get in front of a judge and get fined, or, I don't think he's ever really done time, but it's enough that, we know him here in Utah because back in the late 90s, early 2000s, he was kind of like a local kingpin as far as, his his product that he was selling and his business. But so what I've found out is, first off, his name is Dell Schanze.
Buck.
He was born in Ithaca, New York on September 27th, 1969. Nearly 30 years later in 1996, Super Dell, as he called himself, because who would actually consider him super? Unless they meant super for super tool. Because that's what he is. In 1996, he would start a computer empire called Totally Awesome Computers, man.
Yeah.
He would have I remember he would have commercials before movies started.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
You would go in, and we'll get to that. And I think that's kind of how his fame grew, is because he was such a weird person.
Yeah.
And I say was as if he's dead. He's not dead. He's just not important anymore. But yeah, he's just such a weird person. He'd go on and he'd do these commercials that I'm pretty sure he just filmed himself with just a normal camera, just a normal home camera that anybody would have in their home, and he would, write it. I think most of the time he didn't even write it; he just winged it.
He just ad-libbed.
Let's go in. I'm gonna say what I want to say. Hopefully, it passes and can actually be aired. Which a lot of times it wasn't, and we'll get to one of those. But yeah, and because of that, there was just so much attention drawn to him, and he had a decent product. I mean, this was back before, you could pretty much have a computer in the palm of your hand. You needed to have these big old box computers, and so this was his way of attacking. In fact, so Totally Awesome Computers was a computer store that they basically put in old 7-Elevens, if you've noticed, whenever they were the buildings was like an old 7-Eleven. So it's anywhere he could save money, he would save money.
That's true. I never even thought about it, but yes, that's exactly what they all looked like, was old 7-Elevens.
Yeah, but his point was he took on the likes of because back then the other computer companies that were really huge were Gateway Inc., Micron Technology,
Compaq,
Compaq,
Dell.
Dell. I even think Dell came a little bit later as far as it's big time.
So was Totally Awesome Computers, he didn't just sell other brands of computers?
No, he sold his own
customized.
Customized. So yeah, he would they would be
where he would pick out the components, put them all in the box in the tower.
Did your dad have one?
I don't. Did he? No.
I think my grandpa did. I think my grandpa had a. Oh yeah, that's right. You guys had the Compaq. My grandpa, I think, had a Totally Awesome computer, and it was just they made them powerful, and they were good computers. And
they came with big warranties, didn't they?
Yeah. No, and that was the thing, because anything that happened to him, you could take them back and they'd basically just replace it all. It's kind of like Costco. You could buy something there, have it for 5 years. It breaks just because you've used it so much, and you could take it back to Costco and they'll replace it. So that was just kind of what it was. But I'll hand it to him. He did fairly well, as we've just kind of talked about, but he grew his business from one store in 1996 to 9 along the Wasatch Front before its and his ultimate demise, because of what I have dubbed his dumbassery. So the question that I thought to myself was all right, where did it all start to fall apart? And it was because of one incident that, and now there were, we've talked about, there's a lot of incidents, and I'll kind of touch on them real quick as well. But this one particular incident happened on March 21st, 2005.
So quickly, up till this point, he basically was a normal dude in essence that came in, started a business. It was actually a fairly successful business.
Yeah, it was actually very successful. Yeah.
And then he gets to this point, and this is where things start to go.
This is where things start to go down, because he does something stupid enough to where I don't think the media liked him anyway.
Well, let's just he's always like had this over the top personality in like his commercials and stuff, but I think at that time people just thought like that was his like for his commercials. Like, this was a character
that was his facade.
That wasn't him. Yeah, that was like his totally awesome character.
Yeah. But once this happened and they realized that he is a total tool, the media ran with it. And I mean, he is from what I can tell, he's kind of a conspiracy theorist. And so he just thought that the media was out to get him, and maybe they were. But because of that, he kind of started going crazy and just went down a dark path. But so on March 21st, 2005, he was charged with a fire for. I just wrote this all completely wrong. In 2005, he was charged for taking out a firearm during an altercation. And the altercation happened because he was in his black Jaguar. He's got his kid in the front seat, or maybe he's in the back seat, I don't know, but he's got his kid in the car, and he's cruising through a residential area at high speeds. And so everybody, like, I live in an area where people come down my street and it's ridiculous how fast they're going. And like, every time it happens, I just throw whatever's in my hand at them. Like, I've had a popsicle. I'm like, F you! Just take this treat that I was going to eat. But just anything to just kind of show them, like, seriously, slow down. And so what a lot of these residents did is they saw this guy speeding through their neighborhood, so they got in their cars and they followed him. And he went to a park and parked his car, and everybody was there, and they confronted him and started yelling back and forth. And one guy threatened to break his tail light. And at that point, he takes out a Glock 10 millimeter handgun, starts waving it around, and then puts it over his heart. Like, I don't.
Wait, like points it at his
no,
heart,
like kind of just like holds it close to his chest. Okay. And I mean, when the police arrived, Schanze claimed that it wasn't a gun, but it was actually his cell phone that he was taking out. But then later, when he talked to the media, which this is funny because he blames the media, but it's like you just kind of shot yourself in the foot, pun intended, because of this. So, I mean, he had told the police originally that it was his cell phone, but then when the media gets to him, he's like, "Oh yeah, it was a cell phone, or it was a gun. I was protecting myself, and I was worried that they were going to get to my kid." It's like, no, they don't. They're worried about their kids, and they're worried about you freaking going 50 miles an hour in your black Jaguar in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that all happens.
Speaking of. This is. Do you ever see the signs in neighborhoods that say "slow children at play"?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a little
like slow motion,
like a little. Is it a turtle? No.
Well, I just think it's kind of cruel.
It just has a
Slow
child on
children
there.
at play, because they could be normal children.
You're not saying they're slow children. I'm just saying slow down. There are children at play.
I don't know, but they forget the comma every time. So
proper punctuation, people.
Yeah. Instead of saying slow children at play, it's slow children at play.
Yeah. So this kind of started this downward spiral that eventually led to, I mean, he had a lot of other issues as well. Like there were some accusations of him basically harassing some of his other employees, and his partners weren't happy with him. He was kind of Jewing them out of some stuff, like some money and things like that. So everybody just wasn't happy, and it eventually just crashed. But just some of the other incidents. So I bring that up, and one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk about it is just because the other things that he's done just really make me laugh because he's so stupid, and he has the most punchable face on the planet.
Yeah.
So if you don't know who or what he looks like, look him up, Google him. Dell Schanze, and it's spelled Schanze, Schanze.
And it's Dell, as in
Dell is
Dell,
Dell, like the computer.
Yeah.
Look him up. Just be careful not to punch your screen because you will want to do it. But we've already talked about how his commercials were just so crazy. So we have a clip here of a radio commercial. that he did. It never got aired. It was never aired, and you will see why. And I warn you, as you listen to this, it is very, it's not foul in the fact that there's like a lot of profanity, but it is very, what's the word I'm looking for?
You want to punch him in the face.
Huh?
Like sexual?
Not sexual. It's just, you'll see.
Derogatory.
Just read it. Derogatory, yes, towards a certain group of people. So let's go ahead and listen to that.
Hey, this is Super Dell at Totally Awesome Computers. Did you hear about that stupid gay rodeo? Whatever, dude. And then people are like talking about, gay marriage. Free gay marriage? What next? Schizophrenics marrying themselves? I guess. I'm sorry. If you think you're a Tinkerbell, you might want to get yourself fixed. Tell you what, for being rude and abusive to homosexuals, if you're a faggot, come on in and buy a computer. I'll give you $100 off. You'll need it for a psychological evaluation. Okay. I don't know if I can finish this commercial. I think they're going to kick this one off the air. Come to Totally Awesome Computers, where we're straight. We got a straight up deal, and you can just get, US Robotics modem, Creative Lab sound card, ripping video card, Asus motherboard, all the cool stuff. Totally awesome.
Seriously.
How does he think that people are going to respond well to that?
Okay.
Even in the 90s.
I'm going to say, in the 90s, it was a little bit different back then in the fact that there wasn't such as wide of a knowledge of and an awareness of the LGBTQ
community,
RSTLM, NLP community. It's, listening to that now, we'll say this. Back when we were in junior high school, we said stupid stuff like everything was gay.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, stop being so gay. And we didn't think about how bad that actually sounded. Now, today, you hear it. And
it honestly is like a replacement for like the word lame in a way is how it was treated.
Yeah, which is still wrong.
It doesn't make it
There's
right.
no way.
That's
how we're saying if you're gay, you're lame. But
that's how often it was used by just like most people.
Yeah, it was just everybody was numb to it because you just used it. And, if you were there back then you know what it was like. That is still no excuse. No excuse to go on air and just humiliate and just say all these horrible things just to sell some computers.
Yeah. Well, and his was obviously directed at that group.
Yeah.
Like when kids would say things like, oh, that was gay or something like that, they didn't necessarily mean it in the fact that they were trying to be derogatory towards a homosexual person, right?
Yeah.
It was just more like an expression that, was probably wrong. And most people have changed their ways since then. But he obviously was attacking this group directly, meaning
because they did not
use the words as like we said, a derogatory put down.
Yeah. So just based off of that horrible human being, and believe it or not, he ran for office. So later on, he ran for mayor of Saratoga Springs.
I think it was governor.
No, he did run for mayor in Saratoga Springs.
Oh.
And did not get anywhere. I think after a certain polls showed that less than 2% of the population was actually voting for him or supporting him, he decided to bow out. He then later decided to go for governor. And we have a little...
Saratoga Springs is a city in Utah.
In Utah, yes.
And he went for, I'm just curious, he went for governor of Utah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. As the Republican Party, and we have a little clip of that as well.
Hey there, this is Super Dell Schanze for governor. You got it. A real American is actually going to be on the ballot this fall. There's only 3 people on the ballot. Super Dell Schanze, a real American. There's Bob Springmeier, the Democrat, who personally told me on the phone he does not care about the Constitution. He actually said that. Then there's the Antichrist socialist Huntsman, who's raised taxes more than any governor in the history of Utah, and he's taken away more of your freedoms than any governor in the history of Utah. So tell the socialists to go away. We also need to get Huntsman's thumb out of your gas hole, because guess what? All of our cars will run on water. I know, my friend has run his 4-stroke weed eater completely on water. The technology is real, and it's been suppressed by socialists like Huntsman. So get those guys out of there. You only got one choice, one American that's going to stand up for your rights and the Constitution. Super Dell Schanze for governor. If you need more information, check out.
So it kind of seems like maybe somebody that's in office now, you know, but just a very
Who you mean?
much higher position,
An even higher office.
just somebody,
than governor now.
a higher office than governor, just somebody who doesn't really care about the things he says or the people he hurts or things like that. We're not going to get into that political thing. I know that, you know, that is a dark hole that we don't want to
It's a
go
hot
down
topic
currently.
For some people.
We don't have enough time for that. But so
Quickly
that's
though, on that recording, was he on like a collect call?
I don't know. I just got that off of YouTube, so I'm not exactly sure what that was.
sounds like
'Cause,
in
yeah,
the
oh yeah, there
background
was
you
like
could hear,
dialing in the
like, yeah.
background. I think what it was is like you would call in to his like campaign office or whatever, and that's like the recording. Or I'm really not sure, but anyway, so there's that. He obviously did not win, thank heavens. But then the other things that he's been in trouble for. So, and they kind of snowballs from here. One leads to another. So he got really into, or really is into powered, oh crap, what is it called? Paragliding, powered paragliding. It's the one where you're paragliding, but you have that fan on the back or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he was on like some federal government land, some national park or something like that. And him and his buddy are flying, and he's got the video going, and this is why he's so dumb, because he did something like this, and then he posts it because he thinks he's funny. So he's flying, he's chasing this owl, and he in the air. The owl's not on the ground. He's in the air, and he catches it twice and kicks it in the air
As it's flying.
and he thinks he's so funny. And so he posted, and of course, you got animal rights activists that are super upset. And the fact of the matter is that he did that on federal government land. It becomes a felony. And so he goes in, and he's sentenced to a court hearing. And I don't know the full details on this. I was trying to read all of the news articles about this, but they don't give all the information. But so he goes in, and he's waiting. He's waiting for his hearing. So there's like a line of people, but they're all just waiting in the seating area while each person goes up and stands before the judge. So everybody's in the same room. And one guy is up there, and it has to do with basically the judge taking away his firearms. And what I've also found out is Dell Schanze is a huge First Amendment, gun rights. It's not the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Second Amendment activist. And because after his Totally Awesome Computers failed, he started another business called Totally Awesome Guns and Ammo. And
Did he base that out of Utah, or was that based out of Vegas?
It might have been Vegas. I'm not sure because I've never seen it here. And I didn't really look into that one. The only reason why it comes into play is because as soon as the judge tried to take away this other man's guns, he stood up and just started yelling at the judge and was like, "You can't do that. That's taking away his rights," blah, blah, blah. Well, he was held in contempt, and then he was handcuffed and and then arrested. Later on, goes back in And because of his incident with the owls, he finally gets his hearing. The judge wants him to cooperate with law enforcement and have them go into his home to kind of do a search and just make sure that, I don't know what they were looking for. But that was against his rights as well. And he didn't want to do that. And he said, you're going to go in there. And I think along the lines of, them, because he's got a bunch of weapons. He's fearing that they're going to take all of his weapons, and that if they do that, he can't protect himself. And the reason why he needs his guns is because recently somebody just threw a severed head through his window. Like a severed human head. A severed human head. But the article doesn't talk about
this or anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So somebody essentially murdered someone, threw the head through your window, and you didn't say anything about it?
Yeah, that seems...
I feel like I would be definitely calling somebody, real quick.
You don't want to be left with the head and somebody walk in and be like, what'd you do? And you're like, wasn't me.
But the article bugged me because it literally mentions that and never goes back to the head. It just kind of breezes past that. It's just
commonplace.
It's just, So there's that. He's gotten in trouble for some other things. The one that really brought this up is because he got in trouble for shooting his guns really close to, because you have to be so far away from other houses and people, like his neighbors. He was practicing in his backyard, and people could hear the bullets whizzing past their house. And so that was kind of what started this whole thing, and wondering what has Dell Schanze been up to? He's paraglided over the freeway. He got in trouble in Vegas. Him and his wife were banned, and this is kind of ironic because of the type of person he is, was banned from Trump Towers because they wanted to ride Segways through the casino. And then they basically told them we have disabilities and we need these Segways. And they were like, no, you can have a wheelchair like normal people that have disabilities, or you could just, I don't know if that was wrong by saying that, normal people with disabilities sit in wheelchairs, but it's nobody's asking them to drive freaking Segways through their casino.
What disability would make it so you specifically have to have a Segway over?
In the article, it did mention what his wife's disability was, but he would not disclose his own. It was something, well, actually, you know what? I lied. It didn't tell his wife's, but it did tell his. I guess when he was a kid, he fell out of a tree and broke his back, and I don't know.
Well, it sounds like his wife's disability is her taste in men.
So that's basically all I have on that. He is just an interesting person. Part of what I have called instead of a hometown hero, he's our hometown zero. Not worth anything nowadays. He doesn't drive a black Jaguar. He's probably just got his little Honda Accord. That's probably still pretty too good for him. I'm talking about maybe a Geo.
Is he still in Salt Lake?
I believe so. There was an article not too long ago from Salt Lake Tribune where because he wanted the media to see him as a normal person. He said, you guys are portraying me all wrong. And so Salt Lake Trib said, yeah, we'll send somebody just to spend a day with you. And so, of course, I'm sure he did all he could to show them how normal he is. But then you see some of the other videos that he has posted online and stuff. There's one where he's being very derogatory to Asians. What? So, yeah. He's like, oh, look at me. Look how fast I can punch this box. And so he does this little thing where he points his finger or pushes it really fast into a cereal box to put a hole in it. And he's like, wow.
Did he actually put a hole in it?
Yeah. And so then he'd hold up, he'd look at the hole.
With just his finger?
Yeah.
That's actually pretty cool. I would watch that.
Do not give him more props. But anyway, so if you're interested, go on, take a look. But that is all I have for that subject.
Going back to his punchable face.
He does have such a punchable face.
I remember, because yeah, like it was, you go to the movies, and we went to a lot of movies back in that time frame. I mean, we were high school age, just out of high school. And so you would see Dell Schanze pop up once or twice a week, you know, as often as you go to a movie. And I know a lot of people did go buy Totally Awesome computers. I know people who would be like, oh, they really are the best computers, and would stand by them. But I literally never, ever had an urge to get a Totally Awesome computer solely because I hated his commercials.
Such a horrible person. I mean, his commercials were so bad.
Yeah. They were just annoying.
Yeah. You can find them online. They're not, I mean, I actually found it really difficult to find some stuff on him, like on like his videos of his commercial, or, you know, like copies of his commercial, something on YouTube where you think they'd all be, but there wasn't a lot. You can go on YouTube and see his paragliding kicking an owl thing. So
it's still on there.
Oh, it's still on there. You can see it. Wow. So, because I'm sure even if he took it down, somebody else got a hold of it and put it up. But anyway, that is all we have for today. So
I hope you enjoyed those 3 questions and the different directions that we ended up going with some of those. Do you want to go into what we got for next week, Trev?
So next week, we've got some good stuff for you. Apparently, we're going to be talking about killer bees.
If you remember that whole thing that went down where we had like the scare of the killer bees are coming, I really wanted to know what happened.
What happened to all the killer bees
that were coming for us. So that's what I'm going to dig into a little bit next week.
All right, so killer bees.
And all you have to do to survive a killer bee swarm is jump into some water with a straw and breathe through the straw.
That's what they tell you in the cartoons.
Unless they land in the straw and choke you.
And I mentioned this last episode, which really made me want to talk about it now. So my topic is going to be on bronies. If you don't know what that is, make sure you tune in. And
it has to do with My Little Pony and men.
Dudes.
Right?
Yeah, dudes who love My Little Pony. But it just goes a little bit more than that. And then lastly, Alan has, if we could replace dreams with another form of entertainment, what would that be? Mm-hmm. So start thinking.
Now that we've gotten, this is going to be episode 3, it feels like there's like a little bit of a trend going on where I think Alan just really feels a need to have entertainment, whether it's through history or while he's sleeping. He's got to have some kind of digital entertainment.
It's true. I would probably be a suicide risk 100 years ago. If we're gonna, did I turn dark? Did that just go dark? Just because, I'd be so bored.
But
you wouldn't know about these things.
Yeah, you can catch our podcasts. We're available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and YouTube. Make sure you visit our website at www.qcodepodcast.com and catch us on our social medias, which is Twitter at QCodePodcast, Facebook and Instagram, QCode Podcast as well. And, of course, don't forget to leave us 5-star review because that's just the right thing to do.
Yes.
If not, that's rude.
And we're totally awesome.
You should give us 1 star for each question that we have per episode, plus 2 more just for good measure.
Good. So, thanks again for listening, guys. We'll catch you next week.